Translator, Dark Angel. Editor, Kurisu Mu Feiyao. Ling Han's eyes flickered with sudden recollection. She was of the Cold Spear Association. The very faction he had long suspected was founded by one of his own disciples in ages past. Back then, merely for the sake of an alchemy furnace he had once handled, she had battled an old man with reckless desperation. When she spent, gold flowed from her hands like water cascading down a mountain stream. He had never expected that she too would appear here, and furthermore, that her gaze would fall upon this very brick. Wait a moment. Could it be that she was deliberately contending with him for no reason other than to oppose him? The Cold Spear Association had once given their full backing to the Ling Han of 10 millennia ago. Naturally, they bore hostility toward this Ling Han who had re-emerged in the present age, believing that because he shared the same name and practiced alchemy, it was a profanation of the Ling Han from 10,000 years past. Thus, if she had recognized his voice and was now intentionally raising the price out of spite, such a thing would not be impossible. The prestige of a heaven-grade alchemist could shield one from nearly all troubles, but not every single one. For example, the Cold Spear Association, which revered the Ling Han of 10,000 years ago to the point of fanatic devotion, would undoubtedly treat the current him with immeasurable contempt. More importantly, the Cold Spear Association seemed to possess wealth as vast as an ocean. 3,000, Ling Han said calmly, his voice steady as an ancient well. 5,000. Mu Feiyao followed without the slightest hesitation, her tone light and effortless. Had he not disciplined her soundly before? Why was she now confronting him so brazenly? 10,000. Ling Han's bid rose once more, unhurried yet firm. 20,000. Mu Feiyao's voice carried even greater delight as she doubled the amount. In the blink of an eye, the price of this single item soared to 100,000. One must remember, the starting price had been a mere 10 origin crystals. Indeed, even a lump of filth could command the price of gold, so long as two people fixed their eyes upon it. Ling Han did not retreat. Single star and double star origin crystals were now of little use to him. He had originally intended to scatter such low-grade crystals like loose change. Triple star origin crystals were reserved for cultivation. As long as the bidding remained within this range, he did not mind spending money as though it were dust beneath his feet. As a heaven-grade alchemist, wealth held little weight in his heart. The bidding escalated relentlessly. Only when the price reached 1 million origin crystals did Mu Feiyao finally withdraw, with a faint, knowing smirk. This woman had done it deliberately. Though Ling Han did not value money, being forced to spend 1 million origin crystals because someone maliciously inflated the price still left a bitter taste in his mouth. If one day she discovered his true identity, the look on her face would surely be a spectacle worth witnessing. He could not help but imagine it spitefully. At that time, he would seize the opportunity and make her kneel obediently before him, calling him ancestor. Soon enough, attendants from the Spirit Treasures Pavilion delivered the brick. Given Ling Han's status, he could have simply placed it on his account. Yet since he possessed the means, he chose not to exploit that privilege and paid in full. He examined the brick carefully. It was undeniably stone, yet incomparably solid. Ling Han could not break it. Even when he drew the demon birth sword and slashed with sword chi, not a single mark was left behind. What would happen, he wondered, if he handed it to who knew to chew? A thought flickered across his mind. He tossed the brick into the black tower and asked inwardly, "Small tower, what material is this?" "Do you take me for an encyclopedia?" Small Tower replied instantly in a frosty Sundari tone. "I have lost all my former memories. How would I know what kind of rock this is, especially when it doesn't even contain a trace of source power?" "Still Sundari, even after losing your memories." Ling Han mocked inwardly. Pang! Pang! The rock spirit came charging over like a landslide, its entire attention fixed upon the brick. Its mouth gaped wide. If it could drool, a river would already have formed at its feet. "Master, eat! Eat!" It transmitted its yearning thought to Ling Han. "Fine, I'll let you have it. But it's extremely hard. Don't break your teeth," Ling Han said casually. Though he had paid 1 million origin crystals, he was never stingy when it came to his own people. Though calling the rock spirit people was admittedly questionable, The rock spirit rejoiced and pounced forward, opening its jaws to bite down. Crack! It bit with such ferocity that its entire head shattered from the impact. The reason was simple. It had exerted too much force, while the brick was incomparably hard. The brick remained intact. Instead, its head burst apart. Fortunately, the rock spirit could fragment itself at will, splitting into countless smaller stone forms. For a rock spirit, its humanoid shape was merely superficial. Its head and chest were no more vital than an arm or a leg. Thus, innumerable fragments of rock flew back together, rapidly reforming into its original head. Unwilling to concede defeat, the rock spirit bit again. Yet the result did not change. It could not chew through the brick. Each excessive exertion caused its head to shatter anew. After several attempts, even its recovery speed began to slow. Ling Han grew slightly concerned that it might truly destroy itself in its pursuit of strength. He quickly retrieved the brick and said, "You cannot digest this rock yet. When you grow stronger, I will give it back to you." The rock spirit dropped to its knees with a thud, pounding its fists against the ground again and again, shaking the earth as if wailing in despair. Ling Han was astonished. He had never imagined this massive stone being could exhibit such human-like sorrow. The rock spirit excelled at devouring strange ores. After fusing with the divine temple rock within the 12 heaven mystery realms, its cultivation had soared. It was now at the 7th layer of the flower blossom tier. Yet it could not digest even the smallest fragment of this brick, proof of the brick's extraordinary grade. Ling Han drew the brick out once more and studied the faint pen marks etched upon it. Though he could not discern the script, it exuded a majestic aura, an ancient weight that seemed to transcend the passage of endless eras. He idly tossed it in his palm, thinking it would make a fine weapon to smash someone with. Its hardness alone promised considerable destructive power. The auction continued. Several ancient martial techniques from old ruins were presented. What startled Ling Han was that 2 relics from his previous life's era were now regarded as antiques, fiercely contested by the crowd. He could not help but feel a surge of emotion. Like a dream, 10,000 years had passed. Upon awakening, all had changed. Nowhere in this world could he find a familiar face. He must reach the shattering void tier as swiftly as possible. Only then could he break through the void and ascend to immortality, once more standing shoulder to shoulder with the Sword Emperor and the others. And the heavenly phoenix divine maiden, she had liked him yet never confessed, keeping their relationship shrouded in ambiguity. When he met her again, he would certainly give her a sound spanking. The auction concluded smoothly. With 1 month remaining until the year-end grand auction, the items today were merely appetizers. The true treasures were reserved for that final event. Ling Han knew his appearance would have already spread throughout Million Treasure City. At this very moment, heaven-tier cultivators might be lurking in the shadows, seeking to capture him and force from him the secrets of the 12 Courts' inheritance and the Immortals' depository. There was little to be done. Though he was a heaven-grade alchemist, he had risen too swiftly and had yet to establish his own faction. If he had a dozen or more heaven-tier experts by his side, then aside from shattering void-tier cultivators, who would dare provoke him? He exited the private chamber. Upon reaching a secluded corner, he slipped into the Black Tower. After changing his appearance, he re-emerged and openly merged with the crowd. He strolled out of the auction hall and calmly circled back to his lodgings. Not a single person suspected him. Who would have imagined he had hidden himself within the Spirit Treasures Pavilion? This was what it meant to conceal oneself within the very shadow cast by the lamp. Translator, Dark Angel. Editor Kurisu Ling Han returned to his residence, and the moment he stepped inside, Hu Niu and Helian Shun Shui rushed over, one on each side, each clinging tightly to one of his arms, as though afraid he might vanish again. "Why did you come back so late? Niu missed you to death," Hu Niu said in a deliberately sweet, childish tone. "Why did you come back so late? Little Shui missed you to death." Helian Shun Shui echoed her without the slightest hesitation. Her sense of judgment was truly worrying. She actually imitated such an unreliable little girl. Jushuan Er merely smiled quietly from the side. She had already removed her veil, revealing her soul-stirring beauty. Unlike Hu Niu and Helian Shun Shui, She did not compete for Ling Han's attention, but instead gracefully offered him a cup of fragrant tea. Xuan Er is still the best, Ling Han said with a smile. Humph! Hu Nu immediately became unhappy. Puffing out her cheeks, she declared, Nu knows how to do that too. With that, she dashed off, clearly intending to prepare tea for him herself. Helian Sun Shui stood there blankly, uncertain whether she should chase after Hu Nu or remain where she was and continue clutching the corner of Ling Han's sleeve. In just a short while, Hu Nu returned, holding a cup of steaming tea. The little girl had never been particularly reliable. As she ran, large amounts of tea sloshed out of the cup, yet she paid it no attention at all. When she reached Ling Han, she slammed the cup on the table with a paw, then lifted her chin proudly and stared at him, clearly waiting for praise. Ling Han glanced at the cup. Right, at least 2/3 of it was filled with tea leaves. He burst into laughter and said, Hu Nu really is generous. Others only add a few tea leaves when brewing tea, but you throw them in by the handful. Hu Nu immediately beamed with joy. Ling Han's praise was more than enough. She did not care about anything else. At night, both Hu Nu and Helian Shun Shui went to sleep. This seemed to be a characteristic of body cultivators. They placed greater importance on nourishing the physical body than cultivators who focused on origin power. Those who cultivated origin power could even replace sleep with meditation. Zhuzuaner finally obtained a chance to be alone with Ling Han. She leaned back into his embrace, and her heart gradually settled into perfect tranquility. She felt exceptionally at ease. After receiving the alchemical pill from Ling Han, her master's Dao injury had already healed. Though some after effects remained, her cultivation had returned to the spiritual infant tier. In a place like the northern region, that level of strength was already considered peak among elites. Now, she had no more worries. There was only a single thought left in her mind: to remain by this man's side for the rest of eternity. The two chatted intermittently, and before they realized it, sparks of emotion began to flicker in their eyes. Unconsciously, they drew closer and eventually embraced. Ling Han's hands roamed freely, touching the places this peerless beauty was most proud of. Zhu Xuan extremely shy, shut her bright eyes tightly. Soft, faint hums escaped her nose, as though she were silently encouraging him. Just as he was about to lower his head and press a kiss upon those alluring crimson lips, a sudden thought arose. How marvelous the heavens truly were! Though both were peerless beauties, Zhu Xuan and the heavenly phoenix Divine Maiden were entirely different kinds of existence. One was gentle and cool, like clear spring water, while the other was noble and spirited, like a blazing divine flame. The moment the heavenly phoenix Divine Maiden came to mind, it was as though a basin of icy water had been poured over him. All desire vanished without leaving the slightest trace. He simply held Zhu Xuan and gently stroked her jade-smooth back, his heart filled with nothing but boundless longing. Zhu Xuan obediently rested in his arms, quietly listening to the steady rhythm of Ling Han's heartbeat. For several days, Ling Han remained within the Spirit Treasures Pavilion, either cultivating or spending time playing with the girls. His days passed in exceptional comfort. However, remaining inside the Spirit Treasures Pavilion without change eventually grew dull. Under the urging and encouragement of Hu Nu and Helian Shun Shui, Ling Han decided to take the three girls out to stroll around Million Treasures City. They left the Spirit Treasures Pavilion and walked through the heart of this ancient city. This was an ancient city with an extremely long history. At every corner, one could sense the weight of time, and each brick seemed to carry its own ancient legend. Throughout the day, they visited many places, and when night fell, they stayed at a lakeside inn, admiring the beautiful night view over the lake. The bright moon and countless stars were reflected upon the lake's surface. Moonlight and starlight shimmered together, creating a scene of breathtaking beauty. Ling Han and his group sat by the lakeside, enjoying the scenery while grilling meat. So fragrant, give me a piece. A voice suddenly rang out. A round, plump figure appeared, stretching out a hand to snatch a meat skewer that was still roasting, utterly unconcerned by the heat. Damn fatty, that's news! Hu Nu flew into a rage. Anyone who dared steal her food was her mortal enemy. She immediately kicked out, trying to send the intruder flying. Yet although this man was a damn fatty, He was an exceptionally agile, damn fatty. With a twist of his body, he avoided Hunyu's kick, and his left hand remained completely unaffected. In a single motion, it successfully seized a meat skewer. Hunyu shouted angrily and charged forward in a storm of punches and kicks. The fatty merely weaved and dodged, never retaliating, allowing the little girl to attack as she pleased, displaying astonishing flexibility. However, Hunyu was even nimbler. After only a few exchanges, she landed a solid punch squarely on his lower abdomen. His round belly instantly caved inward, yet his fat body acted like a cushion. The indentation only reached halfway before the force of Hunyu's punch completely dissipated. His stomach then rebounded, instantly returning to its original shape, even rippling several times like the surface of water. Hunyu was about to attack again when Ling Han reached out and grabbed her. Even so, she remained unconvinced, baring her teeth fiercely at the fatty. Ling Han smiled and asked, "Fatty Ma, here to make your fortune?" This fatty was none other than Ma Duo Bao. Ma Duo Bao flopped down onto the ground. There was little difference between his build and Ying She Yang's. His legs were practically invisible to begin with, and after sitting down, he looked like a round ball placed on the ground. One couldn't help but worry that he might lose balance and start rolling around. He first devoured the meat skewer, then wiped the grease from his mouth and said, "My tanned brother." Even when people are separated by vast distances, fate still allows them to meet again. Still, every time I see you, you look different. What's going on? He was clearly pretending ignorance. Ling Han did not bother to explain. Ma Duo Bao was obviously a capable individual. No matter how Ling Han disguised himself, the other could recognize him at a glance. He smiled and said, "Damn fatty, you didn't come here just to steal my meat, did you?" "Who says I didn't?" Ma Duo Bao showed absolutely no restraint. Shua, shua, shua. He had already snatched several more meat skewers. Hunyu was so aggrieved she was on the verge of tears. She glared viciously at Ma Duo Bao, feeling that this fatty was truly detestable. Ling Han chuckled, took out a jar of fine wine, and poured him a cup. "Come, have some wine." "Hehe, Lord Bao has an excellent tolerance for wine. If you're trying to get me drunk to pry my mouth open, that's impossible." Ma Duo Bao saw through Ling Han's intentions, yet still raised the cup and gulped it down. His brows instantly relaxed, and he exclaimed loudly, "Good wine! Good wine!" This time he did not beat around the bush and said, "My tanned brother, Lord Bao, intends to form a party and wants to invite you to join. What do you say?" Ling Han laughed and replied, "I'm currently the target of many. Aren't you afraid I'll bring you trouble?" "What trouble? Lord Bao can cover the sky with one hand. I'll block everything for you." Ma Duo Bao said casually. Ling Han neither agreed nor refused. Instead, he asked, "What kind of party do you plan to establish, and what is its purpose?" "To split open the skies."